my doves. Maria here. I have a very special guest today. If I was asked to explain him in one sentence, I would struggle because he contains multitudes. He always considered himself as a multiplier and understood how important it is to facilitate new partnerships. Some years ago, he was actively involved in the punk scene in New Jersey. Now he lives in Berlin and organizes here Berlin Tech networking events and also networking events for life science professionals. He is a molecular biologist, an entrepreneur, a network weaver, a blockchain and longevity enthusiast. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nick Fiorenza. Hey, Nick.
Hello. Hey.
Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Yeah, great. How about yourself?
Amazing. So currently in Honduras.
Ooh, what are you doing in Honduras?
So we came with a Marabou team to participate in summer accelerator program.
Excellent.
Exciting times.
Very good.
So let's start. Let's go back to you being my guest today. When I was preparing questions and introduction, for me it was quite challenging, to list all your achievements and the things that you are doing. And I would like to start asking how it happened that you became a molecular biologist. So what is your story?
I guess what happened was that when I was young, I became very close with my pediatrician, and I got interested in human medicine, and that kind of took me to biology. And then I just got fascinated with biology, specifically in like cellular and human biology. And that's where I focused on in high school and in college, and then also here in Berlin at the Charité, where I did my molecular medicine degree master's program. Highly competitive program. Only a few got accepted, and there I focused on topics that are certainly relevant to longevity, which I know is a topic you want to talk about. Yeah, I was looking at circadian rhythm, so the sleep-wake cycle, and how certain, let's say, molecular pathways, when they're disrupted through different, let's say, genetics. I won't go like super deep into the science for the sake of conversation. Let's say, for example, when one of the enzymes that affects a pathway is dysregulated, how does that affect the cycle of mammalian cells? So I'll just keep it at that. And then I worked on epigenetic reprogramming, which is a big topic in space and longevity right now. And I wanted to take a more commercial approach to my research during my master thesis. So I focused on drug development, and it was on drug repurposing, which is also a topic that's very dear to my heart and still dear to my heart for many reasons, which I'm happy to get into. So I kind of just followed this. I've been a nerd since I was younger, always interested in human physiology, biology, all that stuff, trying to understand why things are happening in the human body, and how does that translate into interventions from like a lifestyle or pharmacological intervention point of view. So that's kind of been my path, and everything has kind of, let's say, followed from there.
That's quite a journey. I'm always interested to ask founders, and scientists how they came to being founders and scientists, because I firmly believe that there is always a personal story, personal journey behind it. So you were inspired, and that led you to where you are right now.
Yeah. So what happened was that after my master's, I got sucked into Berlin. I just fell in love with the city. And before I fell in love with the city, my initial plans were to go back to the United States, go to medical school and become a physician, and thinking about like oncology or pediatrics, or a mix of that maybe. But then I started working as a consultant. Well, I was working in as a research analyst for a consulting firm focused on strategy in pharmaceutical research and development, and I got very fascinated with the industry. I was like, wow, like this is super interesting how all these incentives work, how all these different components of drug development work. And didn't really want to see myself consulting. I wanted to do more of like, take more of like an actionable approach. So I got into biz dev and marketing for some startups, and got, Berlin back then. It still is like hot spot for startups. Weren't so many like bio and biotech startups then, and now there's a lot more. But that's where I got some experience working in a startup, super early stage. Like the company was just forming; they were just achieving like a proof of concept. So I basically built up the entire pipeline of biz dev and marketing for them, coming right out of research analyst consulting gig, and working closely with the startup founders. That kind of sparked my interest for like, what is a startup, like how do these work and stuff like that. And then worked on different startups since then. The reason why I decided to go on my own and to start my own thing is that whenever I landed a new job, I just got like depressed because like I really don't want to work for somebody. I'd rather work for myself. But how do I get there? Especially in Germany, being an American, where you need residency and visa, stuff like that. So I just jumped around trying to look up skills here and there. And then basically this year, I started working for myself.
Yeah, you also told me that you have entrepreneurs in your family, so you have it in your genes.
Yeah. So my dad has his own accounting firm, and we had some diagnostic imaging centers back in the day in New Jersey. And my grandparents, they had some restaurants like Italian hot dog style, or like New Jersey Italian hot dogs restaurants. If you Google that, you'll see like it's very peculiar for New Jersey. And my mom's side of the family, when they moved from Sicily to New Jersey, they had their own like construction companies and stuff like that. So I guess it was carried through the genetic lineage in this case. At least the spirit of an entrepreneur.
Epigenetic profile.
For sure. True, yeah, definitely carried through through both bloodlines, and then through various environmental situations, right? Being around it, being close to it, and stuff like that also affected my, let's say, outcome.
Absolutely. Let's dive a little bit deeper. You are now officially having your own thing.
You could say it's official in a way. Basically, it's a community of different startups, entrepreneurs, business executives. That's our target audience, and our target community are like these people that want to connect with each other and work together and collaborate in life sciences, in Web3 and AI. So we're building this network of organizations, people, and so people, platform, resources to connect them and to facilitate collaborations through events like speed networking, and also through other events/business models, which we're currently evaluating. So that's one thing that I'm working on. I have a biotech media company that I'm working on. We're not officially incorporated yet, but yeah, it's with one of my friends and who I had worked with previously at Biotech, which is a digital media. And then I work alongside the Methuselah Foundation, which is a nonprofit that's focused on life extension technologies for Earth and outer space, or Earth and beyond, they say. So I'm also kind of working in a startup entrepreneurial environment with the founder there.
I have a lot of questions. So, and before I forgot the first one, which I had in the very beginning, circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
I'm interested because currently most of people in the European countries, in America, they do not follow the rhythm for which our body is originally wired. We go to bed too late. We have a lot of artificial light. Yeah. We wake up also not with a dawn. How all of that affects our health and our lifespan? And does it mean that we all should embrace this narrative of go to bed at 8 and wake up at 5, welcome the sun, and everything will be okay? So should we move as close as possible to the natural state of things, or there are other ways around?
Yeah, it's a really great point that you raise. And currently, with modern society and all the digital devices, artificial light, all these inputs, it's leading to a disruption in circadian rhythm, and that leads to poor sleep, which eventually leads to poor functional performance and to other downstream outcomes that could affect your health span and lifespan. I think sleep is something that's most important but overlooked. Having good quality sleep. Some people need 6 hours, some people need 8 hours, something in between. That's generally what the science is showing, right? I mean, it sounds so boring to talk about, but it's so important. Because if I don't sleep well, then I'm not able to hit the gym and lift weights as good as I usually can. And weight training and VO2, right? VO2 max, your volume of oxygen that you can output. It's an important biomarker for your longevity and your health and stuff like that. So, So what should people do? I mean, people should definitely try to track if there is some significant issues with sleeping, then should modify certain behaviors before bed. It's good to not be in front of the computer to 3-4 hours before you go to sleep, stuff like that. 'Cause at some point, it's good to take a break and try to retrain your circadian rhythm with a good sleep-wake cycle.
And what do you think about different experimental sleep protocols, sleeping for 15 minutes 8 times a day, or constantly sleeping for 3 hours and saying that it's enough for my body? Does it work or not from scientific point of view?
I am not an expert in that. I think for some people it works. For some, it doesn't. I personally don't do that. I've come to a point where I try to optimize my as an entrepreneur that's working on a lot of different things across different time zones. I'm trying to optimize my energy input and output levels, right? And so it's basically I'm a machine learning algorithm myself, and I'm trying to optimize the energy that I can expend during the day, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. And sleep is one of the biggest elements that affect that. So it's food and so everything else, because that all entrains your circadian rhythm. All those different signaling and inputs and homeostatic things. So what I do, personally, I'm, I do a lot and I try to stay fit. So I'm eating once or twice a day. I do a bit of intermittent fasting just to reduce caloric intake. I realized that based on my Mediterranean profile, my genetics and also my lifestyle, I try to eat more Mediterranean. I try to eat more protein heavy. That's usually around noon. So I have a bigger lunch around noon. Before that, I won't eat anything. I won't eat too much because then I get sleepy and then I get a bit brain foggy. I will drink coffee. Oh, I should back up. Before that, I go to the gym. I try to go to the gym in the middle of the day to also break up the day. In the morning, I work on something, and then in the afternoon, I work on something else. And then I'll hit the gym, sauna, and then I'll eat a protein-rich meal with a good amount of fat in there as well. And then in the evening, I won't try to eat too much. I will drink a lot of water throughout the day, of course, and then won't eat too much. I think, this is the age of experimentation. A lot of people are this N=1 experiment, experimenting with different protocols and lifestyles and stuff like that. And you can do it for some time, and you can see what kind of results you get as long as you're testing and measuring and seeing what works and what doesn't work for you. I personally try to just take a sleep-wake, just a normal approach to my circadian rhythm. So I guess it really just depends on that person and how that person wants to go out about the day. Yeah.
I think the most important part is actually experimenting and measuring. We hear the construction of Vitaly. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Duna Towers, they're still building. Mm-hmm. So everything is very personalized. And if we are talking about your journey into longevity, so would you personally want to live forever? Or what would be your ideal lifespan? How long would you like to live?
Yeah, I would say I would like to live to probably 130, 150, something like that. There's a lot that I want to get done. And the first, let's say, 30 years of my life, I'm 34 now, was mostly experimenting and seeing what I like, what I don't like. I'm not developing super scalable software, which, has a very clear business model, and you can go raise money, and then in 2-3 years you can exit. Working more on a long-term kind of approach where I'm really trying to build ecosystems and develop that. to support people that I really like being around and support myself and all that stuff. So trying to build a sustainable community that's going to last for a long time, for generations, hopefully. And that takes time, right? I mean, some people can get it quickly, some people don't. For me, I guess life decided that I need to take a bit more time with things. So with that, I gain wisdom, and I'm teaching people along the way how to, especially younger people that also have maybe similar aspirations, how to also achieve that. And I think maybe I'm a third of the way there, which would mean then by 90, 100, I still want to be able to like hit the gym. I want to be like a super strong, like old man, and being able to teach people and provide wisdom and knowledge and help people. Yeah. What about yourself, Maria? Tell me, are you able to elaborate on your path to longevity? Because I know that you're very much focused on health extent, like lifespan and health span extension and stuff like that. Just maybe your listeners want to know.
If I was asked if I would like to live forever, if I would be able to be healthy, because we will definitely discuss it later. But aging is a disease, so if we would be able to fix aging, I think that I would be happy to live forever or much longer than the current lifespan. I have several family members who died from cancer when I was very young, cancer or heart stroke. So I've seen how people expire unexpectedly. And I'm sure that current scientific progress can fix that, can develop ways to fight many diseases, including aging. At some point, a friend of mine, he's now running a VC fund in England. He is a very talented neurobiologist, and he moved to UK many years ago, probably around 12, 15 years ago. He told me about the first investment that was successful. So company was bought by Big Pharma. It was a genetic therapy for innate blindness. So people who had a tweak in the DNA, they had a mistake, an error in their DNA that made them blind from birth. And the company developed a genetic therapy that allowed to change something in this gene, and people started to see first in blue. So the therapy made their eye susceptible to the blue color, because we see in blue, green, and red. So they started to see first only in blue. So for 2 months, they saw everything in blue.
Wow.
And thanks to the brain plasticity, in 2 months, they started to see normally, full color mode. And I was so amazed. I thought, wow, this is something. People who were blind are able to see. Yes, I agree that this therapy is for like thousands of people who are born with this DNA error. So it's not, it has a high impact on their lives, but probably won't help millions. Although with science, you never know. You never know how your discovery that originally was aimed to help a very small group of people, of patients, what can happen later and what you'll find. I love your strategic approach to longevity.
I guess it's strategic.
Yeah. That's why probably, what was it the main reason why you decided to focus on longevity in what you are doing?
Yeah, more just through a sequence of events. During my time at the Biotech, which I mentioned before, was like digital media for European biotech. I got into crypto. through a friend. And then during my time at the Biotech, I was checking out this company called Molecule. They're based in Berlin, and they're developing a protocol which supports the collaboration infrastructure in early stage research and development. And they've built what is called an IP-NFT. And through that mechanism, they launched VitaDAO. And VitaDAO was one of the first crypto projects that I worked on. And I supported them before and after their token launch. And that was VitaDAO's focused on longevity, research and development. Before then, I was a bit skeptical because I only kind of was more focused on cancer and stuff. And I was like, okay, actually, people are actually doing something in this space. Okay, this is cool. This is interesting. And during that time, I met Methuselah Foundation, met Dane Goebel from the Methuselah Foundation, because they work on prize challenges to incentivize technological advancements and life extension technologies. And that's when I was like, okay, actually, here's a bit more traction. I got started with Dane a little over a year ago, and we've been working together ever since on some Methuselah Foundation programs and projects. So one being the Biomarkers of Aging Consortium, which basically exists to support the validation of aging biomarkers for longevity interventions. Basically, we want to, let's say, at the end of the day, have surrogate endpoints that can be used in clinical trials to develop interventions. So they can be drugs, can be other interventions, like lifestyle interventions, for example. And then we have these surrogate endpoints, which are predictive of longevity effects, like health span, lifespan effects, because otherwise you'd need to, study somebody over the course of a lot of time, and that's decades, exactly. That's a lot of money. So can we either validate and or co-develop biomarkers that would predict how these lifespan and life extending technologies work, right? So that's one thing. And so that's the Biomarkers of Aging Consortium. And that's intellectually very stimulating. I like what's happening there. And we have a challenge prize that now we just launched phase 2 of the challenge prize. So there's 3 phases. The first phase focused on, basically what happened was that we got a bunch of samples and data, right, which are used to basically develop biomarkers of aging models, right? And so we've built called BioLearn, which is an open source tooling for validating these biomarkers of aging and standardizing them. And that plugs into the challenge, so people can actually use this BioLearn tool, and then, or they can use their own tool if they like, and then predict outcomes. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So phase 1 outcome is, can you predict the chronological age within a certain year of a person's life? So for example, we use a scoring system of 3 years. So if you're able to predict someone's age based on the samples, chronological age based on the samples within 3 years, then you can qualify for not for the next phase. Like phase 2 is mortality. That's open to anybody, but you qualify for winning that phase, right?
So what is phase 3 if the second phase is mortality after life?
Yeah, it's morbidity. So it's like predicting. So it's like basically biomarkers that predict certain disease outcomes, right? So it could be, and of course, age-related disease. So it could be cancer, Alzheimer's. It could be, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative, metabolic types of outcomes, right? So yeah, the 4 horsemen, as Peter Attia calls them, right? So that's kind of what we're working on right now. We also do like these manuscripts. So we basically co-write manuscripts with different aging scientists, because the field is it's super fragmented. Everybody has their own kind of definition of aging. Everybody has their own kind of biomarker, their own algorithm. And so we exist to kind of bring everybody together and support this kind of unification, standardization, because standardization of biomarkers is really key in the field of aging, and then validation of those biomarkers, and then scaling that into the world or the domain of longevity drug development or longevity intervention. development, right? So some interventions won't be drugs, some might be complete like brain or complete body, whatever. That's what some people are working on, preservation, stuff like that. And then being able to use certain biomarkers for that could be cool too. So that's one of the projects we're working on. There's a few others that we're getting up on the ground too, or that have been on the ground now. But I guess we'll stick to the longevity focus for now.
Biomarkers of aging. 2 questions here. First one, how many, of them exist?
Yeah, if you go to our there are a lot. If you go to our website, we have some manuscripts that we've created, and in there's like a full rundown of all the different potential biomarkers that seem to be the most validated and useful for looking at. So there are physiological biomarkers that are related to function, like VO2 max. There are molecular biomarkers like omics, genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and a few others out there. So there are a lot, and there's a lot of data. So we really need to develop ways to standardize those data sets and then validate them. And the way to do that is through an open source federated learning, where you pull in all these different organizations and you work together on collaborating on that. So that's currently what we're doing.
So does it mean that we still discover new biomarkers of aging? Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, one paper that just came out a few weeks ago from our consortium, or from people that are within the consortium, so members and contributors, used BioLearn, found a few genes, let's say longevity genes, so to speak. People are, there's biomarkers coming out quite often. It's exciting.
What you do after that? So you have biomarkers of aging, that can predict like lifespan, mortality, morbidity, and then, so how it clicks into longevity. You are able to predict, and then?
Yeah. So for example, let's say, I forgot one, like digital biomarker, right? So something from a wearable. Let's say you have molecular digital physiological biomarkers, and then you understand which ones are the most, say, relevant for a personalized intervention that is then can be used for prediction of disease or prediction of your biological age and prediction of mortality, right? And then you have surrogate endpoints for a clinical trial that you can then also use. So basically all these different biomarkers that can be wrapped into kind of one holistic framework to then be able to kind of support your longevity intervention or protocol. Basically, you have all these measurements that are predictive or prognostic or preventative, right? And that they can be used just to kind of give you some insights as to what's hopefully like what kind of like interventions or what kind of tweaks you need to do in order to optimize your lifespan extending protocol. That's really the key there, is to be able to have like quantitative and qualitative data that support you and your personalized journey towards better health and longer life. And that's kind of what we're trying to get at some point, and then taking that to the clinic. And then some people they want to commercialize whatever it is that they want to commercialize, stuff like that, and that's cool. So they can be employed across all different 0 to A to B points in this whole clinical translation of what's currently being done.
I can't stop thinking that insurance companies would love to have access to these biomarkers.
Yeah. Yes, they would, of course. Yeah. Of course. So we knew that insurance companies, they're very smart, and we're already talking to them about meaningful collaborations at some point.
If we go back to these biomarkers, I love very much your quote that we live in the era of sick care and not healthcare. And currently, there is a huge problem that many diseases are being diagnosed too late, so people die. So how do you think in practice this shift to the preventive medicine can fix the situation, and how big is the market opportunity?
Ooh, market opportunity is definitely quite nice if there is a market for it, if there are buyers and sellers, right? And in a true capitalistic fashion, in a true marketplace fashion, I should say. I don't know. I mean, like Nature magazine, they've mentioned that there's like $1 trillion, $2 trillion opportunity per annum for this. But yeah, I can share my screen real quick and show you. There's this really good slide that I that I took from one of the presentations that the executive committee from the Biomarkers of Aging Consortium gave. So I just wanted to share that. Can you see this slide here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Biomarkers of Aging as a gateway to true preventative medicine. This is like my favorite slide from all the presentations, right? Because we want to prevent disease. We don't want to treat the symptoms, which is what we're currently doing with sick care. With the current, modern day healthcare, we treat disease way too late. So we want to be able to prevent things. And how do we prevent things? Well, we have to understand what to prevent. And to understand what can be prevented, we have to understand like the mechanisms of prevention, what diseases to target and stuff like that. Right. So currently, like the biomarkers that we have, there's no clear actionable insight. So we can't really do much with them. That's what you can see here on the top left above the title. The future, basically we have these biomarkers, we can measure what's happening, and then we have this feedback loop, which can provide us with some actionable insights to support the translation of certain interventions, which can then be used to support more precision medicine that goes towards this preventative approach. So we can do more frequent screening, like mammography, for example, if it's cancer, breast cancer. We can look at different therapies, start tweaking different therapies or interventions, so targeted lifestyle or therapeutic intervention there. So like right now, we're at least on the biomarker level at the validation and data sharing component, but we want to eventually get to this kind of proactive, preventative longevity focus with these biomarkers. So that's kind of the red line in what we're doing there, is to really be able to target things before, target disease before they actually turn into a disease. So really understanding those different biomarkers and what needs to be done on a molecular, digital, and physiological level. That's going to be key. So just a little slide I wanted to share.
Yeah, I also loved this slide, and I would say that I can imagine that maybe 10 years from now, you can have a wearable, like an updated Oura ring or whatever, that will track the biomarkers and tell you when something goes off track and what should be changed or fixed, to what you need to pay attention. So definitely we are living in a very exciting time.
Yeah, and time will come when we have like a digital twin, live updating digital twin, which we can then leverage to support our and optimize protocols, right?
Yeah, I also heard that this method of digital twins is also used in like drug development and drug repurposing.
Digital twins are currently being used in manufacturing and also heavy industry at the moment. I know some companies that are working on that, and I know healthcare for sure. There's a lot of cool technology that's currently being developed. But yeah, with that, you need a lot of computing power, and you need to have very good preventative medicine and protocols, and also biomarkers for that. So all these different technologies need to really kind of converge in one space, and that'll take, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years, maybe longer. I'm not really sure. exactly how long. But I could imagine by the rate of pace of which things are going, it could be the case.
And talking about computing power, AI also wants a lot of computing power. Is it why blockchain and when blockchain comes into power with like decentralizing the science, and distributing the computing power, and also give access to people who are doing science, and more control and engagement of community into the scientific research.
Yeah. So, for example, leveraging blockchain to support science, which is decentralized science, DeSci, like VitaDAO and Research Hub and a bunch of other ones out there. Yeah, I think blockchain for me is basically it's a digital governance protocol. Like we can govern protocols of digital infrastructure or digital assets, stuff like that. Right? Yeah. If you have, for example, you generate a data set from one of your research, and the data set lives on the cloud, and you had a bunch of people working together on creating that data set with different labs and stuff. If you attach that to some kind of blockchain, it's not only immutable because it's living on the blockchain and it's very difficult to change. I mean, it's also traceable as well, which is important. Yeah, and it's also ownable, right? Read, write, own, which is what Web3 is all about. Yeah, that's a really important component. And if you have the right incentives and the right infrastructure to support collaboration, and everyone can get like a piece and is properly incentivized to collaborate, then the blockchain definitely makes sense to advance certain collaborations in the space. Even with AI, I mean, artificial intelligence, it's leveraging so much information that's out there that's being produced. But who really owns that intellectual property? That's a massive use case for blockchain and AI is intellectual property rights for the development of artificial intelligence. So that's going to be there's a fusion there for sure, and that's really important to ensure that also governance over these protocols. We don't want this dystopian outcome, which some people are, talking about.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I see the rise of the projects that work in this field and reward the users for sharing their data with scientists, democratizing the scientific research, because there is a huge problem with getting people for research who participate. So, and many projects are now doing that. So there is even a guy here at Vitalia who has a startup, and I also met several people in Berlin. So it's definitely a huge trend right now.
Yeah, it's trendy a bit, which is good because it attracts a lot of eyeballs and interest and money. But also, like, there are good use cases for it too. It's an interesting development. I mean, I think when it comes to like for example, the VitaDAO molecule model, when it comes to funding, let's say research, which would normally not be funded, and that is needed, that might be a bit out of reach for most centralized institutes, then this makes a lot of sense. But also, crypto never sleeps. Money moves quick in crypto. So you can be faster if you set up the right kind of, let's say, DAO, the right kind of organization, infrastructure, etc. You have the right people there. You have the right goals and frameworks to achieve those goals. You can be faster than any kind of centralized body, and especially when you're pulling the collective minds and you're creating like the hive mind. I think it reaches a saturation point at some point. When you have like so many people working on, there's just so much noise to signal in this case in certain DAOs I've seen. But those who are a bit more agile and they get like the best minds in the room to work, they've distributed labs, they work together across certain challenges and problems that are affecting everyday life. For example, I've seen on the BioXYZ Discord, like microplastics DAO. Microplastics is such a challenging problem, and for sure, there's some organizations that are working on that. But if you're a DAO and you pool money and then you raise enough funds and you have a treasury that can then fund really interesting microplastic research, like how does microplastic affect X, how does microplastic affect Y, or step upstream, whatever, then that's super interesting too. Yeah, there's also like super cool funky science that's also that can be developed at some point too. We can work together on creating a cool business model or cool model to fund this kind of research, for example. I think that's the power of digital communities and DAOs and blockchain and the whole DeSci space. It's like it's really powerful. It's really powerful if done right, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that the future belongs to communities. And this is something that is embedded in the core of Web3. And the fact that now we see that blockchain, AI, DeSci, they're all converging together and people are self-organizing. So that definitely shows that the process works.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's great.
I have a last question because we are running out of time.
Oh, no.
So, that was really fast. The motto of Methuselah Foundation is making 90 the new 50 by 2030. So, asking for a friend, what we're expecting to happen in this decade, less than decade. So will we see the great breakthrough in longevity?
So the whole longevity neuroscience community, we're all targeting 2030 as the date of which we want to achieve outcomes, basically making 90 the new 50, or to have some therapeutic out there. For example, X Prize Health Span, they're working on this $101 million challenge that focuses on actually getting some clinical trial or at least some data that showcases that an intervention is viable in a certain subset of population, that is viable in extending the healthy human lifespan and health span there. Methuselah is also focused on that as well, also doing challenge prizes. And Evolution as well. Evolution is Evolution Foundation. They also have a health span focus, and they're also working. We work with them too to actually achieve these results. 2030 sounds like a good date of which we can get at least target, and if we all work hard towards that date, that's good. Because just saying making 90 the new 50, great, okay, but putting an actual time for deliverable, there we go. Then we have something that we need to work on by a certain time point, and that's cool. And that seems like the whole neuroscience community is aligned around that point as well.
So I can say that with such a community effort, definitely we will see amazing things in the next 5-10 years. Amazing. It was a very inspiring conversation. I definitely have one of the best minds here today.
Yeah, sounds good, Maria. It was nice. Definitely nice to chat about these things. Hopefully your audience is interested in these kind of topics. I mean, we kind of just touched the peripheral of a lot of it, and just touched the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of things we can go down into, but people feel free. They can get in touch with me to learn more about all the different things I'm working on and how to get involved. So that's cool. And we're always looking for great minds to support all the different endeavors that are currently ongoing and that will be launched. So feel free to share my contact info with them should they want it.
So you said that. I definitely will. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for inviting me. It was my pleasure.
Bye.